We are here at First AME Church in Los Angeles to meet with leaders in the community in mostly the Southern California region, nonprofit organizations, faith-based leaders, legal aid organizations, community outreach people, to welcome Secretary Sean Donovan, Secretary of HUD, and talk about the impact of the historic settlement with the five big banks to California. And we convened in a closed-door room to talk about what will be the collaboration between federal and state government with the community-based and faith-based folks so that we can maximize the positive impact to California, and so that we can make sure that, as was our goal, that the people of California, and in particular those who are hardest hit, will see relief, and that relief will be real. And that relief will take on the form of principal reductions. It will take on the form of refinancing, especially for underwater homeowners and borrowers, and it will take on the role of restitution and other benefits to these families. As we know, 500,000 Californians, just last year alone, we believe, were in the foreclosure pipeline, and this year we believe there are about 500,000 Californians in the foreclosure pipeline. So the work that happened through the leadership of Secretary Donovan and others will have meaningful and profound impact on the families of California. We also talked about the fact that the national settlement was one part of a broad focus, both for the administration in Washington, D.C., and for us in California. And so that settlement was about bringing relief, but not to the exclusion of maintaining our commitment to continue investigations around conduct that has not been investigated, that relates to predatory lending practices and relates to what we are concerned may have been false claims in connection with investment strategies and in particular mortgage-backed securities. So that work continues. And then in California, we are also doing the work to ensure that all of the historic reforms that were part of the national settlement will be codified so that instead of the 3 years with which they will occur during because of the agreement with the national settlement, that they will be extended and actually be in place so that we will never go back to the days before, to the days where a homeowner who was a responsible homeowner is in a dual track situation where they are in the process of foreclosure, but they are also paying and following the rules on a modification system, and then they're foreclosed upon without warning. We want to end that unfair system. This is what the national settlement did, but it's only for 3 years. We want to make that a permanent solution that is about transparency and about justice for California homeowners. The second piece of the California Homeowner Bill of Rights that is going to be most significant and helpful to all Californians, but in particular those homeowners, is that there will be a single point of contact, that the servicing institution will designate a single person who can be responsible to be familiar with that homeowner's case, with their paperwork, with the advice, so that there is consistency and transparency for all involved, the financial institution as well as that homeowner. So again, I want to thank the Secretary for joining us here today. I know he's on a bit of a tight schedule, so I'm going to let him share a few comments, and then we're happy to take any questions. Secretary Donovan.
Attorney General, thank you so much for hosting us today. Even more importantly, thank you for your incredible focus, the relentlessness you brought to this settlement in fighting for California families. I've told you before, and I will say it again here in front of our friends, that without your tenaciousness and your focus, this would not have been as good a settlement, as big a settlement, as landmark a settlement. And so thank you for all that you've done to make this possible. You really did a remarkable job in this. But the Attorney General and I both know that our work is not finished, that we need to make sure that these benefits that the settlement provides, $18 billion we expect to California homeowners alone, 500,000 families that should benefit. we have to make sure that those benefits actually happen. And that's what this roundtable was about today. How do we make sure we reach families with the help that they need? And I really want to make 3 points about that assistance. First of all, that we now know from our experience through this crisis that the most important way we can ensure families get the right kind of help is through supporting housing counseling, legal services, and outreach. And that's why built into the settlement was clear language that directed about $2.6 billion nationally, over $400 million here in the state, towards efforts like counseling, legal services, and outreach. And I want to lift up Kamala Harris for her efforts, her work through this roundtable and so many other ways to do exactly what the settlement intended, which is to use those cash dollars coming to the state of California for the intended purposes. And I hope that attorneys general around the country will follow her lead in doing exactly what the settlement intended to happen. We also need to make sure, and this is why it's so important to get the word out to homeowners across California, not to let themselves be taken advantage of. There is free help available to families. Go to the HUD website, HUD.gov. Go to the call the Hope hotline, 888-995-HOPE, and get help from a HUD-approved counselor. It's free. There is no payment up front. If somebody tries to charge you money up front, it is very likely a scam. You do not need to pay up front in order to get help. And I will tell you, I will be working very closely with the Attorney General to make sure that we ensure anybody who's trying to take advantage of these families is brought to justice. Second, this is not only about helping families that are still in their homes, but for families that have been foreclosed on, they need to know that there is help available for restitution. If you think you were wrongly foreclosed, if you were charged fees you shouldn't have in the process, there is a place to go for help, but you need to call soon. Only until the end of July, there is a restitution process available to you. The number to call is 888-952-9105. Third, just as the Attorney General said, while the direct benefits in terms of principal reductions and refinancing and other help is critical from this settlement, we also need to make sure that this problem never happens again. We cannot let homeowners suffer in the way that we found in our investigations, homeowners that suffered from these practices. And so while the Attorney General is rightly focused on a homeowner bill of rights in California, we are doing precisely the same thing at the federal level to make sure that there are federal protections in place. And it is important that there is a combination of federal efforts at the state level, because foreclosure and other processes around homeownership are directed by state law. It's critical that a homeowner bill of rights move forward at the state level as well in California. So we will be working closely on that. The president made a recess appointment of Richard Cordray, which is going to help move forward the federal efforts on our homeowner bill of rights, and we look forward to working with the Attorney General to realize her goal of a homeowner bill of rights here in California. The last thing I would say is that while the settlement itself is critically important, it is only one step. The president continues to fight to make sure that underwater homeowners can refinance. We've seen a doubling in refinancing in California relative to last year because of our efforts for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA borrowers to be able to refinance if they're underwater. We're going to continue fighting for further principal reduction, and we're going to make sure that we help communities that have been hardest hit rebuild through our neighborhood stabilization efforts. All of those are critical parts of the president's plan. And we're going to continue to bring justice for homeowners that were harmed not just by the servicing practices, but by the origination and securitization of these mortgages in the first place. And we will continue to work closely with Attorney General Kamala Harris and others around the country to make sure that we continue our fight to bring justice to families and to hold institutions accountable. Thank you all for being here today.